Hi everyone, this is Kyle with K-Debate. I am going to be doing a follow-up to my last video, which was on the importance of debating reasonably. Before I gave you a brief example, a very poor example of what a good argument was, I wanted to explain in this one, here are my notes, how to give a good argument, why to give a good argument, the logical fallacies people fall into, and explaining what that actually means. Okay, let's start with how to give a good argument. This is just a summary of what I said in my last video. A good argument is comprised of factual, reasonable, universal terms and ideas that anyone who has the same information as you and who got the information in a viable way will come to the same reasoning with. Not necessarily the same conclusion, but paper, I have paper. This paper is thin. Therefore, paper is thin. But why is it thin? Well, if it was thicker, it would probably be closer to something like this plastic stuff that I have here that I'm not going to show you because it's tack stuff. Oh, like this. This is thick. The functionality is different. Paper is meant to hold a lot of information in a compact space. So you want it to be thin. The thinner it is, the more information you can hold in a smaller space. So that's why. Now that's just a really crummy example that, again, I didn't have notes for. Now, why do you give a good argument? Well, not everyone needs to. In fact, nobody needs to make a good argument. But if you want to be able to communicate with people and convey ideas without using some other means of persuasion like violence, manipulation, or coercion of some kind, then you would want to use a good argument. A lot of people associate arguments with fighting. I do not. I consider arguments a form of making a point, and that's in my previous videos. Just look at that if you want in depth of that. Okay, the logical fallacies people fall into. These are pretty common. These are intentional or non-intentional, and the intentional ones, usually the people doing them are jerks. And I'm not even going to get into that because you know who you are. Anyway, here's a good one. Because I don't like it, I will deem it bad, unworthy, or damaging in general. That is a value system. I don't value it, therefore I am going to put it into a category that it does not necessarily fit into. That doesn't mean it doesn't. I mean, in my last, I believe it was my last video, I talked about somebody who was using this exact reasoning to say that I'm allowed to talk about the Holocaust in the most positive fashion, and it doesn't matter if I offend anybody because, you know, they're just being sensitive, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I don't like that. And if I had just stopped there and not given a reason and just said, well, that's obviously wrong, I'm not giving an argument. For a lot of people, that's enough, though, because, you know, most people would agree with me. But again, it's not an argument. If somebody didn't instantly agree with me, then where would I go from there? I would have to build a reasonable argument. So that is a logical fallacy. It is not using logic, it is using emotion in place of logic. So just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's right, but you have to go beyond that. Okay, let's see. Some things are very damaging, but they can't be your only argument. Okay, yes, that's the conclusion to what I was saying. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's bad. Some things are damaging, but you have to have more finesse, especially with dealing with somebody that thinks it's not a bad thing, because then you don't have that. They don't think it's bad, so if your argument is it's bad, you have to have a reason, and it has to be a reasonable to them. I mean, that's if your goal is to persuade them. So if they're insane, don't even worry about it. Some other fallacies are just It's the closer it sounds like logic, but it's not, the worse it is, because they're really easy to fall into. Um, the biggest one is obviously the ones that are based off of emotion but are very persuasive. Like, I feel it. I feel like this is wrong. And you can be very articulate in saying that. You can have all kinds of stuff with that, but it's not necessarily logical. Um, here's one. I learned not too long ago that hydrogen peroxide is really actually a poor antibiotic. Not necessarily antibiotic, but it's supposed to keep you from getting infections. I found out it's really bad for that. And I wondered, how has it been going on for so long? It's because people just agreed that it worked. Why did it work? Because it bubbled. And then I thought about it. It's like, well, why does... I learned about it in biology class. I mean, it's in our classrooms. If it doesn't actually work, then somebody dropped the ball so hard that society just lost it completely. And this wouldn't necessarily be a logical fallacy, but it would definitely be poor reasoning skills. People love the bubbles. If it didn't bubble, no one would use it, because it doesn't feel like it's doing anything. Now, things don't have to feel like they're doing anything to do stuff. I mean, just imagine food poisoning. I mean, you don't know it's doing anything until you start throwing up everywhere. So you don't know it's happening until long after it's already happened. So things don't have to feel like they're doing anything to really mess you up or help. So, but people love that feeling, that idea that I can see it, I can taste it, I can imagine it. And if you can imagine it, you can do anything with your mind. And that's good and bad. Take this. Vapor rub. I'm pretty sure this stuff actually works. I mean, it has a good smell. Never mind. I should not have done that. It has a smell, and it has that feeling, that can't get it off feeling, and it's medicinal. I mean, it's Vicks. That's pretty much what vapor rub is. I mean, it even says right there, Vicks. Wait, there's no webcam. Vicks, really big on it. So, but if it didn't have that odor and it didn't have that feeling, you'd just be rubbing sunblock on your body. And sunblock's such a hard sell because until you're actually burned, you don't think you missed a spot. And I mean, this stuff, the smell is comforting, but it's almost always comforting because it was given to you when you were young, and it was with, love, and you got better, and all that other stuff. But that's an association. That's not scientific argument. This makes you feel better because it does. Don't question us. Just smell it. And people say if it doesn't taste bad, it's not good for you, and that's obviously a poor logic, because I mean, bananas are delicious. Oh wait, that's also not true. Bananas taste like bananas. I like bananas, but that doesn't mean that they're delicious. It just means that I like the taste. So, just like I don't necessarily like the smell of vapor rub, and some people love it, I like the taste of bananas. So, there's a lot of things that people will say, and it's like, well, that's opinion. But if you use it as a persuasive argument, like saying it can't be good for you if it doesn't taste bad, that you're trying to use some form of reasoning there, but it's not true. That's a generalization you picked up as a kid, where people say eat your vegetables, and you say, well, the vegetables don't taste good, and they're like, well, it's good for you. And then you grow up with this idea that the things that taste bad are good for you, and the things that taste good are bad for you, especially with modern media saying that everything that you loved as a kid is killing you. So that's a pretty reasonable one. But now we have things that taste good and are healthy. I mean, taste good on average. You have to have a standard of... It's like opinion. It's public opinion. If it's universal but not everybody is that good enough to say, that it tastes good. I mean, if 9 out of 10 people agree it tastes delicious, then you can say, well, yeah, 9 out of 10 people say it's, but if you just flat out say it's delicious, what about that one guy? I mean, 1 out of 10 people don't find it delicious. That's a lot of people. And what if they just said it was delicious because they were getting paid to eat this food and they were hungry? And it's like, you don't know the criteria that they got that information from. So you have to understand that there's a lot of different ways to interpret data. There's a lot of different ways to interpret just everything that you just accept in your mind. Like, my shirt is red. Is it red? Is it burgundy? Is it purplish? It's kind of purpley, actually. It's like a reddish purple, but you can't see that. It actually looks really cool in the video, but I mean, it's contrasting with my skin and the wall and everything. But if you put this in front of it, wow, that's a way different color on the screen. This is bright yellow, on not this weird pale yellow. And the blue's good. For some reason, I'm not picking up yellow very well. I might have to change the effects of that on my webcam. But well, here's a good example. I see it as bright yellow. You guys see it as kind of pale yellow, unless you're colorblind, and then you don't see it as yellow at all. But there's just a lot of things that people will just accept, and they won't question it because why? Why would you question this? There's no point. But then when you're talking to somebody, there is a point. There is a if they don't understand why you are accepting something that you're using as an argument, and you don't have a reason for you to just flat out accept something, then you have a problem. Just like the person that I was talking to said, I can say whatever I want about the Holocaust, it doesn't matter. If that's all he said, then yeah, he sounds insane. He sounds, almost like a Holocaust supporter kind of thing. But he gave a reason for it. He said, I do this in my chat room. You don't have to be in my chat room. I didn't invite you. I didn't ask you to be here. And in fact, I don't want you to be here. That's why I'm being a jerk to everybody. Is I do this to get a reaction from you so that I can have my lols or whatever the heck, LOLs. And you think about that for a minute, and you get the example of, you go into a bank, and you walk into the bank teller starts insulting you. They call you fat and ugly and stupid, and why are you even here, and blah, blah, blah. Instead of leaving, like a normal person would do, you stay there and yell back. You say, this is a horrible establishment, I'm never coming back, and you make the information well known, but the teller doesn't care. He's like, we don't want you here anyway, you're ugly, we don't want ugly people money. And they just inflammatory all the way. It's the exact same situation, except it's online. It's just completely acceptable. Why is it acceptable? Because it's just expected. So he gave a really good reason why he can say whatever the heck he wants in his own company. He is in his own chat room that he made for this reason, did not invite anybody, did not promote the room in any way in places that were trying to be deceptive, and never once denied that he was only being insulting to have fun. So yes, he's hurting people. Yes, he's wasting his time by my standards. Yes, I think he's damaging people because they're taking him seriously. But it's not his fault they're taking him seriously. He's not manipulating them. So he has a really good reason, whether I think he should be doing it or not. But if I had the power to stop him, why would I? It's his life. So I think his logic, well, kind of twisted in its foundation, isn't as bad as some people I've seen. I mean, there's a lot worse places. At least he's not trying to rob people or actually, kill people. He's just being a jerk by my standards. So he actually seemed like a kind of reasonable guy, as in he used reason. So he didn't have very many fallacies. He just had the mentality of a cynical, apathetic, person. Pretty much the status quo for online trolls. And I think I made a video on trolls before, so I don't have to go into that. He just wants a reaction for fun. And he explained that. He wasn't hiding it. It's not like he was going into other people's chat rooms and doing it, which would have been disruptive and even more jerkish, but he was contained in his own little world with his friends that were doing the same thing, and it doesn't hurt me. I was there talking to him. I felt insulted, but you know what? He was open about it. I could have left at any point. I decided to talk to him because that's what I do. So, logical fallacies. Logical fallacies. Let me look online for a couple of logical fallacies. This should only take a few seconds. Fallacies. Logicalfallacies.info.com. Whatever. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is moral. Mortal. Oh. Well, that would be... It is simply not possible that both 1 and true are 2 and true. Oh man, that's weird. Every day to date, the law of gravity is held, therefore the law of gravity will hold tomorrow. Oh, okay, that's a logical. Inductive argument, but it is also a fallacy. Because nobody knows why gravity works. Well, scientists kind of do, but we don't. So, a fallacy is just an improper reasoning level. Okay, here, I'll make one right now. Vicks Vapor Rub is medicine. Medicine makes you feel better. So therefore, this makes you feel better. That's not true. Because what if you have a toothache? Not all medicines are created equal. Or it's not, probably not anyway, but glass made in China has lead in it. This glass is this glass is from China, therefore it has lead in it. Not all glass made in China has lead in it. But glass from China, not all. If all, then yeah, but you don't have that information, and I doubt it's all. It's just a jump in reasoning that's not true. And some of those things can be really mind-boggling. There are some big ones. Here, let me look at the biggest logical fallacy ever. And yes, that song I'm singing is from the second Mario Brothers game. Well, actually, I think it was just... Yeah, second Mario Brothers. False authority, appeal to force. What is all these? I'm talking about fallacies. Logical fallacies. Oh, your logical fallacies aren't logical fallacies at all because Einstein said so. Einstein also said that this one is better. Okay. Oh, okay. The appeal to false authority. To say, because this man says it's true, it is. But it's not. Galileo syndrome is where one person in the world is right and everyone else is wrong, including the people in authority. Okay, appeal to emotion. See, my mom, she had to work 3 jobs on account of my dad leaving and refusing to support us. And me with my elephantitis and all our money went to doctor's bills, so I was never able to get proper schooling. So really, if you look deep down inside yourself, you'll see that my fallacy here is the best. That's like saying, please don't fire me. I'm poor and crippled, even though I don't do a good job and there's no actual reason why you should keep me here. Please. Even though that's not valid if you're not, like abusing people at work or something. Appeal to force. If you don't agree that appeal to force is the greatest logical fallacy, I will beat you up. Appeal to the majority. Most people think that this fallacy is the best, so it clearly is. I like the way they're describing these. They're describing them as the word of what it is instead of whatever argument they're trying to point. And I could say that. 99% of the world wants to kill you. Therefore, we should kill you. That's appealing to the majority. That's a fallacy. That's not a good reason. Appeal to novelty. The appeal to novelty is a new fallacy, and it blows all of your other fallacies out of the water. All the cool kids are using it. It's obviously the best. That's nice. Appeal to numbers. Millions think that the fallacies... That sounds like the majority one. Appeal to tradition. Oh, I've heard this one before. We've used appeal to tradition for centuries. How can it possibly be wrong? Begging the question. Circular reasoning is the best fallacy and is capable of proving anything. Since it can prove anything, it can obviously prove the above statement. Since it can prove the first statement, it must be true. Therefore, circular reasoning is the best fallacy and is capable of proving anything. That one I like. I think that one's hilarious. People use that one a lot. I'm better than you. Therefore, your opinion doesn't matter. Therefore, I don't have to listen to you. And therefore, you're inferior to me in arguing. I hate that one. I really do. People use it a lot. And even online, people will state their credentials. I have been a doctor for 27 years. Therefore, I know exactly what's wrong with you, even though I've never met you before. And then they diagnose you, and hey, they might be right. But you know what? That's not a reason to start taking medicine that might kill you. I mean, that's not good. I mean, obviously, if it's a non-invasive, dangerous thing, you can do it. But a lot of the times, medicines have side effects that can kill you. Just look at any commercial that tries to sell you medicine instead of your doctor. That's usually an appeal to the emotion, though. Let's see. The complex... Oh, yeah, the burden of proof. Can you prove that burden of proof isn't the best logical fallacy? That one I like because that one's not necessarily a fallacy. It's more of a question of trying to see if the other side actually has a reason. If you can't prove it, that doesn't mean it's wrong, but it doesn't mean it's right. So if I were to say that I heard this one that there's a second Earth behind the sun, and it's always behind the sun, and we can't see it because it's always on the other side, and no one's ever been able to see it because no one's ever been over there. So you can't prove it's not. I mean, if you can't prove it's not there, then why are you even arguing against it? Well, it's not probable, and we would have seen it by now. And it's like, well, has anyone actually looked right there at that spot? Has anyone actually been able to see behind over there? No? Then you don't have any argument to counter it. That doesn't mean I'm right. That doesn't mean there is something up there. But that doesn't mean that it is the burden of proof. If you're trying to force an issue on somebody that you have no proof on, they can say that. You don't have any proof. Now, if they're just saying something and then they're not trying to force it on you, then you can't say that because they're not doing anything with it. They're just thinking about stuff. That's the burden of proof is a really good one for God. People have no physical evidence. They say the Bible, they say miracles and all that stuff. But then people, it doesn't matter what your belief is your belief. That's good. But when you force your belief on somebody and you say you're wrong because you don't believe me, then you have the burden of proof. You actually do. You cannot prove to them using any kind of evidence that they will agree with, usually, so that you cannot prove it to them. That's what the burden of proof is they want you to prove it. And your evidence is not up to their standards. So that could seem insulting to you, but also you forcing things on them can be insulting to them. And it's damaging all around, but the burden of proof really is on the person trying to prove something that the other person can't see. So that's why I like the burden of proof. I don't think it's a fallacy. I think it's a fallacy if you use it as an argument, but you shouldn't use it as an argument. So I can see that. You're not supposed to use any of these as arguments, but people do all the time. And this one just has a twist to it where it's connected to aggressive persuasion. It's when you're trying to change somebody's belief without any evidence. At least not evidence that somebody can see. It's like if I were to say, this cup I'm holding in my hand that you can't see, I can say it has water in it. But I'm not going to show it to you because I can't see it. Now, I know somebody told me that that cup is full of water. I even heard it being filled, but I don't know if it currently is full of water. I can say with reasonable conviction that yes, the cup should be full of water. But if I'm trying to sell that cup of water to you in its current state, and I literally say, it is a cup that is probably full of water, that's fine. But if you say it's a cup full of water, and they ask, can I see it? And you're like, no, but I'm pretty sure it is. Are you sure it is, or it is it? Because you're selling it as it is. And they're like, well, I know it's full of water. It's like, that seems suspicious. It's like, can I see it? No. It's like, because I can't see it. And then you look at it, and you're like, there's a little bit of water in there. So the burden of proof is on the person that's trying to tell you without showing you. So the burden of proof is that they should be able to show you, or at least prove it using reason, which is usually data. Okay, let's go to the next one. False premise. Oh, wait, I skipped some. Complex question. Have you stopped beating your wife and saying complex question isn't the best fallacy? Oh, that's attaching two things together. That's mean. That's like a loaded question. Let's see. False dilemma. I've found that either you think false dilemma is the best fallacy or you're a terrorist. That one I've seen. That one's funny. If you don't agree with me, here's one. If you're not with me, you're against me. That is a false premise. Wait, no, false dilemma. Wait, false dilemma. That's saying you're either on my side or I'm out to kill you because you're out to kill me. It's like, no, I just don't agree with you. I don't want to kill you. I mean, that was what ex-President Bush said. If you're not with us, you're against us. And that's really messed up. That's not true. There's not just two sides. There's a lot of sides. So, it's false dilemma. Okay, false premise. That's why I was getting mixed up. All of the other fallacies are decent, but clearly not the best, as they didn't come from my incredibly large brain. The false premise. That's where you say, this is why, when it's not true. Gambler's fallacy. In all of the previous talks about the subject, gambler's fallacy won, so I just know the gambler's fallacy is going to win this time. Well, I flipped the coin 5 times and it was heads. That means it's going to be heads again. Now, I would argue that it's a loaded coin, so maybe. Or you just got lucky. You know, if you flip a 2-sided coin 1 time, it's a 50-50 chance of it coming up heads or tails. Generally, it's slightly less than that because it can land on its side, but it's actually slightly skewed because it can't land on the same side that you shot it up because it has to flip at least once, otherwise it's not a flip. But so it's on one side slightly more than the other side, but let's just go with 50-50. If you flip that coin 100 times and it lands heads every single time, or even 1,000 times and it lands head every single time, if you flip it again, it still has a 50-50 shot of it landing on heads again, or tails. Think about that. Okay, guilt by association. You know who else preferred those other logical fallacies? Hitler. That's accusing somebody of being like somebody that has a negative view so that people associate that person with you as an argument. That's not an argument. That's like saying your mom, except saying, you know, your mom is Hitler. So that'd be funny. Don't ever say that to somebody. Your mom is Hitler. I'm going to get in trouble for that. I know I am. Okay. Non sequitur. Non sequitur is the best fallacy because none of my meals so far today have involved asparagus. It's just not connected. That's like saying, I like cup, therefore I should take over the moon. Yep, it's a non sequitur. That's why that comic is so funny, because it just doesn't make sense. Post hoc false cause. I don't know what hoc is. Since I've started presuming that correlation causes causation, violent crime has gone down 54%. Wow. Yeah, a lot of people think that correlation is causation, and that is a major problem, especially in the political arena, because they say, well, we did something, and then good things happened. Therefore, what we did was what caused this. No. There's a lot of things. I mean, it could be that... Oh, here's a good one. Here's a good one. On The Simpsons, this one people recognize. Homer Simpson got promoted once. I think it was the episode where he had hair, and he wanted to give everyone tartar sauce so that people would be happy. And accidents went down like 70-something%, and meltdowns stopped happening, and all this other random productivity went up, and all these things, and everyone's like, yay, Homer, you did it, tartar sauce did it. And then Smithers came over and is like, well, actually, these numbers all coincide with the last time Homer Simpson went on vacation for any length of time. So the correlation of tartar sauce with decline is also not necessarily causation. It's just, it happens to be the most prominent thing that you can see. The actual causation was Homer not breaking everything. Okay, the red herring argument. I've heard this one. They say that to prove your fallacy is the best requires extraordinary evidence because it's an extraordinary claim. Well, I'd like to note that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence is itself an extraordinary claim. Okay, that's just confusing, and I think that's the point. I'm not even going to go into that one. Relativism. Well, maybe all those other fallacies are the best for you, but to me, the relativist fallacy is the greatest logical fallacy ever. That's like saying, to you, yours is great, but to mine is great. I actually like that one, but I won't. Slippery slope. This one's fun. If you don't like slippery slope arguments, you will do poorly in class, drop out of school, commit crimes, go to prison, and die of AIDS. That's a slippery slope argument. That's saying, well, if we allow this, everyone in the world's going to die, you know, because we let this happen. But it's usually more gradient than that, but it's getting more and more ridiculous each step. If I fill this cup up with water, it'll get heavy. Then, if I drink this water, I'll get heavy. If I'm heavy, people won't find me attractive anymore, and I'll be an outcast to society. And then I'll die alone, fat, because of this cup getting full of water. I should never let this cup get full of water. Special pleading. I know that everyone is posting about their favorite fallacies, but special pleading is out and out the best, so I should just win with no contest. Woo. Flattery. Are these all fallacies? No. Appeal to ignorance. No one has been able to prove that another fallacy is better than appeal to ignorance, so it must be the best. Composition. Each of the other fallacies stink. The fallacy of composition is therefore better than the whole lot of them combined. Division. This is the best list of fallacies. It follows that there could be no better description of the fallacy of division than this. Equivocation. The best fallacy is on this list. Equivocation is on this list, therefore the best fallacy is equivocation. The fallacy. Some have argued that the fallacy couldn't be the best fallacy because some arguments for it being the best fallacy are themselves fallacious. Clearly this is a fallacious argument. What? Fallacious argument from which we can only conclude that the fallacy is indeed the best fallacy. I like that one, just because it says fallacy a lot. Hypostasis Hypostatization. Personification? Go hypostatization fallacy. You can do it. If you just try hard enough, you can be the best fallacy there is. Oh, come on now. Don't look at me like that. Some of these are weird. Okay, the straw hat argument. Apparently you think the straw hat argument is bad because you have something against the Wizard of Oz. Well, you know what? It doesn't have anything to do with the Wizard of Oz. Therefore, the straw hat argument must be the best fallacy. I like that one. Very straightforward. Most of the time it takes more than that, but yeah. Let's see if I can do this. Straw hat argument. You don't think that Vicks can heal you, but have you ever used Vicks and not gotten better? Have you ever not used Vicks and died? Vicks works because you survived. Because it helped you. I don't know. Affirming the consequent. If it is proven that affirming the consequent is the best, then I will be very happy. I am feeling very happy, so obviously affirming the consequence is the best fallacy. Denying the antecedent. Antecedent. If denying the antecedent were not the best fallacy, then I would be sad. I am actually in a good mood right now, so obviously denying antecedent is the best. Antecedent must mean a form of sadness. All of these are logical fallacies, and all of them use improper logic or reasoning. Not all of them are outright wrong, but most of them used would be really messed up. The only one that I think is not outright wrong is if you very specifically use the... I lost the page. Hold on. Here it is. Which one was it? Burden of proof. You can't use burden of proof purely as an argument like any of the other ones, but you can use it as a basis. You can use it as if somebody tries to argue that you should believe me without evidence, then you can claim that. But again, that's not an argument. That's just you saying that they don't have evidence. You can't tell if there's anything in this. If I told you that there was a tiny black hole in this Vicks bottle, and that using that black hole I can take over the world. So I'm threatening the government with this little bottle saying there's a black hole in here I'm going to destroy the world with if you don't give me $1 million. I kind of have the burden of proof on that because I'm trying to get you to do something based off of no evidence besides me saying something. Now I could show you this and I can say, well, you know, it's a this kind of container, and you know, it could contain a black hole if there was one in there, and this is how I made the black hole, and all these other things, but that doesn't actually mean that there's a little black hole in here. I mean, I can give a really good argument for why there could be one in here, and then people might start taking me seriously, but still, that's not, to prove it's in here, I would just unscrew the cap and show you. So, if it's something easy to prove, then yeah, just show. But if you can't, then I can see where that can work. That burden of proof can be used. But if you just use it as a you know, you can't prove your side, so you're wrong. No, that's not true. It just means that you have to dig a little bit more. You know, if they're being fair, if they're not just denying everything you say is true. I mean, if I said there's some Vicks in here and you're like, no, there's not, and you show it to them and it's like, oh, well, there's still not. Even though you gave them proof, they just deny it as truth. It's like, yeah, it's an optical illusion. That's not Vicks, that's something else. You just put, I don't know, colored, what's that stuff called? Petroleum jelly in there. No, it's not Vicks. Prove it's Vicks. No, I gave you a reasonable, you know, proof. I gave you reasonable proof. I mean, why would I not just have Vicks? I mean, it's not hard to get. I mean, I could be lying, but I've not given you unjustifiable proof. So anyway, this video is now 40 minutes long. I gave you lots of fallacies that I thought was funny. I just got most of them off a website, but all of these, that's what they are. They're just bad logic. But the conclusion of anything, the origin, the argument, and the conclusion are different things. The origin can be from anything. It can be from anger, it can be from love, it can be purely scientific, it can be anything. You can argue that this cup is going to destroy the world. Now, I can start by saying I am a doctor with 5 PhDs in astrophysics, blah, 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 and this cup is unstable, it shouldn't exist, and it's causing a rift in space and time, blah, 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 blah. And these are all the reasons, and here are the earthquake over here, and the flood over there, and these are all the things that this cup is doing, and I can give you all the reasonable arguments, and people are still going to think I'm crazy because, it's a cup. But people might believe me. And so my origin is I am crazy. My arguments can be completely rational. I can give you all kinds of really good reasons why this cup is destroying the fabric of space and time. But most people still wouldn't care because it's dumb. But the conclusion that people come from it is like, well, it's obviously not true, but this guy really is smart. Or this guy's a lunatic. Or this guy just made a cup of bomb, or some kind of something. The conclusions are all based off of what you value. Do you value my credentials, my arguments? Do you value that you don't actually know what this is made out of? If I say it's made of dark matter or whatever. I mean, I know somebody from high school. He honestly believed that there was, and I don't know where he got this information from. I looked it up that day, but I didn't find anything on it. That there are, was it 7 or 14 dimensions, and that he had a working time machine. Now, this was in high school, so this is a little young to be, psycho, running around with a, I don't even know. It reminded me so much of, not at the time because I don't think it had come out yet, but Napoleon Dynamite when they bought the time machine off of eBay. Did he honestly believe that was true? Was he nuts? Was he right? I doubt it because, he was still there the next day when I asked him, to use it or to give it to me or to sell it or whatever, or to, show it to me. And he just kind of denied it after that. So some people honestly think that they can buy a time machine. And maybe you can. But, I mean, if you believe in time machines, you might believe in the world-destroying cup. So you might really, really, really value what I have to say. Look. See it glow? That's the plutonium. And I mean, if you say something in a persuasive way, it might get somebody. And I mean, just look at the guy that started his own religion. It was spaghetti. All hail the giant spaghetti monster or something like that. It's a real religion now. It's obviously a joke. It's obviously a joke. They don't even pretend like it's real, but it lets them wear a colander on their head during their passport photos. That was where it originated. Somebody wanted to do it. Pastafarianism, that's it. They even have their own little Bible now. It is something. It's trippy. It's hilarious, but it's the most blasphemous thing ever. If you're, it pretty much goes stage for stage with the Bible, and it just makes fun of everything. It even opens up with this is a parody. It even says that this is a parody. Don't take this seriously. It is blasphemous. You will be mad if you believe in something else. And it was just that. But people are Pastafarianismists, and that's blasphemous, I guess. But here's another one. Let's see. Was it evangelicals that were King Henry VIII? I'll just look it up. Well, whichever one King Henry VIII started, so he can get a divorce. People know that he started that to divorce his wives. So I've never actually talked to anyone who was like really, really evangelical. I've heard of people that are, but I've never actually talked to a person that is. And so I don't understand where their reasoning is, knowing that it was made up for a reason that somebody had that said that was his reason. And, he converted his whole kingdom to it, so, he wasn't the only one. So that was kind of forced on them. So I don't know why people are still doing it today. I would like to hear the reasonings for that. That would be very interesting to hear, because we know it was made up. Just like Pastafarianism, it was made up. Somebody just thought it would be convenient. I mean, he wanted a colander on his head during his passport photo, for comedy, but he wanted it. King Henry VIII wanted a divorce. It's the same premise. So I would like to hear their reasoning. They might have really good reasoning. I would like to hear that. But I don't know if I will. I actually don't know how prominent it is. I should look that up. But it would be an interesting topic to talk about, just the different denominations, their origins. I mean, I found out that Wiccans are actually a very new thing, and the person that created it pretty much admitted it was a scam. So obviously I know why it's still around, because it's pretty much the ultimate, emo, goth, go have fun and be dark and anarchist kind of stuff, and people love that. I mean, you'll always have people like that. So, I see why they do it, but I don't know if they do it seriously. I mean, it's pretty easy to see that it's not real. Not in every way, but I've also met somebody that actually really believes in it. So, saying it's not real, I need to back that up with something. And I guess the most reasonable thing I could say is that I'm pretty sure the person that created it said that he made it up from, to get money from people. So that's the closest thing to disproving something I can come up with, because, people say, well, he may have invented it, but that doesn't mean it's not true. And that's a fair argument too, but it's also not compelling to me. So just like the Cthulhu mythos, people really believe in that, even because they actually made a really good, they used an internal argument saying Cthulhu is pretty much a mind raper thing that can just shoot mind destroying stuff everywhere and eat your mind. It's not your brain, it's not a zombie, but your mind, and alter things and alter reality and do all this stuff. So if he existed, outside of time and space and all that other random junk, that he could have, that H.P. Lovecraft could just be tapping into that. And that's where those books come from. And they say a lot of the things about Stephen King is from the same place, but I don't know who they is. Maybe I'm just making that up. But it's just like, people wonder where these guys get this information. But that's a good argument. I mean, it's not reasonable. I shouldn't say it's not reasonable. It's not compelling to me. But you have to admit it is reasonable. It comes from a place that you can't just say that's not true, because you don't know. And that's what makes it a good argument, is you have to be able to back up saying no with something. And at the end of the day, people are just going to, after forever, after pretty much eternity, you will have to eventually sit down and say, you know what, I just disagree. You know why I disagree, I know why you disagree, we disagree. And it stinks because you want the other person to agree, but eventually you have to. Because no one is going to have the same, not the same reasoning, not the same conclusions, not the same foundation. You're just not going to have it. Not all of it. Because there's so many nuances to everything. And then there's all those fallacies, and there's the level of education and the subjects that you're on and all that other random junk. And sometimes it's superstition or theory or even tradition. I mean, we've always used Vicks. You know, I'm not going to switch brands, kind of thing. So that's it for now, I guess. Different logical fallacies and good arguments and bad arguments. Oh, I didn't talk about good arguments very much, did I? Yeah, I did. I did enough. It doesn't matter. So, I will end this video with, how can I word this? I have never made a better video than this. Videos I make are good, therefore this is the best video ever. Yeah.